Welcome. First, we'll set the stage. When crises like divorce, identity theft, and asset loss crash your credit score from 820 to 620, even a $190,000 salary can feel tight. In this video, we'll explain the risky debt stacking plan some turn to, why banks say no, and the safer, simpler approach that actually works. Then, we'll map out an action plan to restore cash flow and rebuild your credit without gambling your retirement. Before we dive in, a quick but important disclaimer. This is general education, not personalized advice. Always consult qualified professionals for decisions on loans, retirement plans, and taxes. Plan documents differ, employer rules vary, and tax consequences can change based on your personal details. Now let's continue. Here's our roadmap. First, we'll define the $190,000 income trap. Next, we'll break down the risky stacking plan. Then, we'll uncover the real reason banks deny high-rate personal loans in this situation. After that, we'll show the simple fix and a practical action plan with a sample budget. We'll also cover critical risks of 401k loans. Finally, we'll test your understanding with a short quiz and wrap up with a concise summary and next steps. To begin, let's acknowledge that personal crises can crash a stellar 820 credit score to 620 fast. In that moment, even a high salary can feel inadequate. That's when complex loan maneuvers seem attractive. However, as we'll see next, stacking new loans to pay old ones is more dangerous than it appears. The risky plan typically starts with a short-term, high-interest personal loan to pay off an existing 401k loan. Then, once the plan allows, the borrower opens a new, larger 401k loan, sometimes up to $50,000, to consolidate car loans, tax debt, and other obligations into one place. Superficially, this appears to simplify payments and lower interest. However, it produces a single point of failure. If you lose or leave your job, the outstanding 401k loan can become due within 60 to 90 days. If you can't repay, it's treated as an early distribution with ordinary income taxes and a potential 10% penalty if under age 59.5. In short, the plan looks elegant, but concentrates risk dangerously. Now let's contrast this with a simpler approach. On the left is debt stacking, taking on new loans to extinguish old ones and funneling balances into the 401k loan. It can look inexpensive due to low stated rates, but it's extremely fragile. Any job separation can trigger immediate repayment, and failure leads to taxes and penalties. On the right is the simple strategy. Stop borrowing and use your current $190,000 income to aggressively pay down balances. Temporarily reduce 401k deferrals to the employer match only, and cut large recurring expenses to unlock cash flow. This approach avoids concentrating risk in your retirement account and improves long-term stability. Furthermore, banks often deny high-rate personal loans not simply because of the 620 credit score, but because the budget shows insufficient capacity to manage current obligations. Lenders prioritize the borrower's ability to pay with ease. The solution, therefore, is not a more complex borrowing structure, but a disciplined budget that frees up cash flow. Next, we'll detail the critical risks of 401k loans and why simplicity shines. Next, remember the central hazard of 401k loans. If you leave or lose your job, you typically have 60 to 90 days to repay the full outstanding balance. If you cannot, the loan is treated as an early distribution, taxable as income, and subject to an additional 10% penalty if you're under age 59.5. Rolling all debts into this one loan heightens the risk dramatically. Now let's pivot to the simpler, safer fix. Now, focus on simplicity. First, temporarily reduce retirement contributions to the employer match only. Keep the free money, pause the extra. Second, cut large recurring expenses, such as an expensive car payment, high rent, and redundant subscriptions. Third, direct all freed cash to the single highest cost or most restrictive debt first, often an underwater car loan or tax debt. Fourth, channel overtime and any windfalls into the payoff plan. Finally, once balances drop, restore retirement contributions, and build a robust emergency fund. Next, we'll turn this into a step-by-step action plan. Here's a concrete path forward. First, list all debts with balance, interest rate, payment, and any constraints like tax lengths or vehicle equity. Second, Temporarily set your 401k contributions to the employer match only. Third, cut your top 3 to 5 recurring expenses, especially car payments, housing, and lifestyle items. Fourth, pay the highest cost or most restrictive debt first, such as tax debt or an underwater car loan, to free cash flow quickly. Fifth, automate payments for the day after payday to prevent spending leaks. Sixth, direct overtime and any windfalls entirely toward the plan. Seventh, review progress monthly and cut again if needed. Eighth, once debts shrink, restore retirement contributions and build a fully funded emergency reserve. Next, let's see how much cash this can free up with an example. This sample budget illustrates potential monthly savings. Reducing an expensive car payment from $950 to $500 frees $450. Lowering housing costs from $3,800 to $3,300 frees $500. Cutting dining from $900 to $400 frees $500. Trimming subscriptions from $220 to $60 frees $160. Reducing travel from $600 to $250 frees $350. Reducing miscellaneous shopping from $500 to $200 frees $300. Altogether, that's approximately $260 per month in newly available cash for debt elimination. With overtime or bonuses, total monthly acceleration could exceed $3,000. Next, we'll visualize the budget at a glance. This pie chart shows a trimmed budget after making cuts. Notice how debt payments now receive a much larger share, reflecting the strategy to route every freed dollar toward the top priority balance. Groceries, utilities, and insurance remain stable necessities, while discretionary spending stays intentionally lean until the debts are cleared. Next, let's outline a timeline to finish aggressively within about a year. This timeline depicts a practical 12-month path. In month 0, you set contributions to the employer match, list debts comprehensively, and implement cuts. From months 1 through 3, you attack the most restrictive or highest cost debt, such as an underwater car loan, then roll its payment into the next target. During months 4 through 6, you eliminate any tax debt and automate payments to avoid slippage. Months 7 through 9 focus on remaining consumer debts while maintaining overtime. In months 10 and 11, you extinguish the final balances and ensure your credit utilization drops below 10%. Finally, in month 12, you restore full retirement contributions, establish a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, and begin saving for long-term goals such as a home down payment. Next, a quick Markdown cheat sheet summarizes the payoff logic. Here is a concise Markdown-style summary of the payoff logic. First, stop new borrowing entirely so every dollar can go to debt elimination. Second, pay the highest cost or most restrictive debt first. Third, as each debt is paid off, roll that payment amount into the next target, creating a snowball or avalanche effect. The formula to keep in mind is that new payment capacity equals the sum of cuts, overtime, and reallocated payments. Finally, automate the increased payment immediately after each payoff to maintain momentum. Now, let's test your understanding with a brief quiz. Quiz time. Question: if you consolidate all consumer debts into a 401k loan and then lose your job, what is the primary risk? Options: A, your interest rate resets higher but nothing else changes. B, you have 60 to 90 days to repay the entire loan or face taxes, and a 10% penalty if under 59.5. C, the loan converts to a 30-year fixed mortgage automatically. D, your credit score increases because it is a single loan. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Losing or leaving your job typically triggers a short repayment window on the 401k loans. If you cannot repay, the unpaid balance is treated as a taxable distribution and may incur a 10% penalty if you are under age 59.5. Second question: for a $190,000 earner recovering from a credit score drop, which is the stronger plan? Options: A, increase 401k contributions and take more loans to consolidate. B, reduce 401k to employer match temporarily, cut big expenses, and aggressively pay down the highest cost debt. C, open multiple personal loans to refinance each other. D, ignore debts until the credit score naturally rebounds. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. The proven approach is to free up cash flow by temporarily reducing retirement contributions to the employer match, cutting large recurring expenses, and applying all freed cash to the highest cost or most restrictive debt first, rather than stacking loans. Here are the key takeaways. First, high income does not compensate for poor cash flow discipline. Second, debt stacking centralizes risk in your 401k. Third, lenders deny because the budget shows limited capacity, not only because of the score. Fourth, the simple solution is to cut costs, hold 401k contributions to the employer match temporarily, and apply all freed cash to the highest cost or most restrictive debt. Finally, once debts fall, restore retirement contributions and rebuild credit. To summarize, stop new borrowing and concentrate all available income on debt payoff. Trim large recurring expenses to free substantial monthly cash flow. Prioritize the highest cost or most restrictive debts first. Be mindful of the severe job loss risks associated with 401k loans. With consistent discipline, many high earners can eliminate tens of thousands of non-mortgage debt in under a year, and then restore contributions and build reserves. Finally, let's wrap up. Thanks for watching. If this was useful, please like the video, share it with someone who might be considering loan stacking, and subscribe for more concise, practical money content. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which cut would you make first, car, housing, or lifestyle? See you in the next video.